When you see hedge funds, commercial banks losing their head on purchases, losing their head on the amount of money that they lent, it's ridiculous. I mean,
the Airbnb apocalypse is coming. Commercial real estate could be the thing that causes the next financial crisis. Well, I've got a special guest with me today who's Orlando Miner. Orlando has a fantastic channel here on YouTube. Go check him out. I've linked him in the description. Orlando, thank you so much for coming on here. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you bringing me onto the channel, man. I watch your channel, great content. Thanks again for bringing me on the platform.
I love your channel, Orlando. You know, Orlando makes some of the funniest, the comedy in his video. You just got to go over to his channel and watch some of his videos. He does great Airbnb videos. You know, you've been covering the YouTuber Shelby Church, who bought an Airbnb. I really like that story that you did on her because it was a complete disaster investment, right? And it showed how these influencers, and it's not just influencers, it's been like a whole trend essentially with this Airbnb stuff, right?
Yeah, you know, last 2 years, probably 3 years, you know, that was the way for people to make tons and tons of money. You would go and search it. There would be, how do you make, you know, $20, $30, $40,000 a month? You know, just do this Airbnb thing. And, you know, everybody was doing the arbitrage. You don't even need to own the property. All you have to do is just rent it and then sublease it out. But, you know, no one ever said that it was illegal to do this. But, you know, this is what you need to do to make tons of money. And I was just explaining to people that, hey guys, you probably shouldn't do this because it's illegal. And not only on top of that, it won't be able to continue to go up and up and up. And you're going to be left holding the bag. And, you know, people called me crazy. People were like, oh, Orlando, you're just being a hater. You're just mad that we're making all of this money and you're not making all of this money. And, you know, people would come for me and whatnot. And then now we're here.
Yeah, I know. It's so bad, man. Honest to God, like I've never seen anything like it. When I was in Salt Lake City, I mean, I stayed in this hotel and it was like a brand new hotel. They're opening these hotels everywhere. The hotel was all set out. You had suites and they were like half the price of the local Airbnbs. And I was like, how on earth are Airbnbs going to compete with this? And this was like a brand new hotel. So even your standard room was like a suite with a kitchen and stuff, and they were really catering towards like the people who wanted to stay in Airbnbs, I guess they'd realized. Now it's just going to be a total shit show for these hosts because they're holding the bag on all this expensive real estate that they bought at the top.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of what I think a lot of Airbnb hosts didn't really understand is they believe that they could just walk into a city and just, you know, and rent out their Airbnb and the city would just not care. That the cities would allow their hotels that they gave tax breaks on and all this other stuff would you know, they're gonna let them wither away and just not exist anymore and let millions and millions and millions of dollars just be erased as they ran their Airbnb. And they wouldn't have to pay any taxes. They wouldn't have to get any permits that any hotel would have to get. And I was trying to explain to people that that's not how it works, right? You know, and not only that, but they also misunderstood that the people that are living in their neighborhoods do not like having 200 different neighbors in a year and their kids going outside to play and you don't know who's living next door to you. Parties and all types of craziness happening on their street. People don't want that. People don't want, you don't buy a house so you can live next to a frat house every weekend. Nobody wants that, right? And so I was trying to explain to people that the shoe's gonna fall, and once that shoe falls, there's gonna be a lot of you holding the bag. And property taxes have gone up, insurance is through the roof, just regular everyday things, the flooring, appliances, all of these things have went up. And once all of this stuff starts going up, now these Airbnb hosts, along with their income dropping because people can't afford to go on vacation like they were during the pandemic, right? They don't have all that money anymore. Savings are gone. What's going to happen? Once income dwindles and expenses start to go up, you know, a lot of these Airbnb hosts are like, can I give this house back?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly what they'll be like. And I think they're already getting to that point actually in some places. I mean, I've seen it across Canada in the areas where everybody was buying these Airbnb Airbnb properties now. They're all trying to sell them all at the same time. And the other thing about the Airbnb is what people don't realize is they can't list that on Airbnb when they're trying to sell it. So some of these properties are sitting on the market like 6-8 months. They're not selling because nobody's buying these high-priced properties, because the only people who could afford them were people coming from the big cities buying these Airbnbs, speculating. So the locals are just like, I can't afford that. So they're just literally, Orlando, I've seen tons of properties in British Columbia, just north of Washington State, and they are just sitting. They've been on the market now 9-10 months. Can you imagine the carry costs on that?
Yeah, I can. And that's the point. I always say on my channel, the math isn't mathing. It just doesn't make any sense. If you have a holding cost for 9 months and that holding cost, let's just say the holding cost is $4,000, right? And you have no income coming in for that, or maybe the income is only $2,000, but you were expecting to be $10,000. How long can you go before you say, yeah, this is a waste of time, an endeavor that I no longer want to be in, and I have to give that property back? And that's the reason why you're seeing all of these Airbnbs come on the market, is because of just that. The rush has stopped. The gold rush has stopped. And now when you go on to YouTube, see the Shelby Churches, or you see any of these other guys who are doing this Airbnb stuff, their tune has changed. Now you will go onto their page, to their YouTube page, and they'll say things like, you know what, guys, I'm selling my Airbnb, and I'm gonna do long-term rentals now. I'm gonna do that because now they're no longer making the ridiculous amount of money. In that video that I was doing, she was quoted on that she was trying to make $15,000, $20,000 a month. That's insane, man. That's insane. And if you believe as an Airbnb host that you're gonna do that, you're gonna be making that type of money over and over and over, month after month after month, in an area where Airbnbs are very common, you're crazy.
That is absolutely insane. And the other thing with that, I mean, she kind of used it as an excuse, but that California law, it didn't even pass. So she was using that California law that they were bringing in to ban Airbnbs. I can't remember the exact law or whatever. Anyways, that never even passed. She was just using that as an excuse to say, hey, this doesn't work. It just was a crap investment. So I'm out. I'm going into, because she's long-term renting it now, right? I think.
Right, she is.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, if you look at the math, right? The difference between what she was talking about and what the new law, that tax law, was going to say, I think it was like $300 or $400 difference. What difference is that going to make between making and breaking you? It really doesn't. Not when you're making hand over fist money. It just doesn't do anything. So she said that was the reason why she decided to get out, because of $400. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
But she is just kind of the poster child for a lot of these hosts, in my opinion, because she is quite like a lot of these hosts. Because from what I've seen Orlando, and I'm going to actually a host party here in Cabo on Friday. It's going to be interesting because I went last year and I saw the type of people who are buying these Airbnbs, and it was not what I was expecting. It was a lot of young people, which I was shocked by. I was like, what are all these young people doing? But a lot of people from California, who work in tech. And when I was talking to them and saying, do you think there's any problems with the Airbnb market? Because I was pretending that I was interested in becoming a host. Right. That's why I got to go to that meeting. Well, it was pretty much a party. They were all just getting drunk and wasted. And you could ask them anything, which was really interesting to me. But from what they described, they were barely making money anyways, because even back then, the amount of things that got stolen, got broken, and all these expenses that you wouldn't expect were just adding up and adding up and adding up. And they were all sharing who's got the worst story of what somebody did who came to their
nightmare
Airbnb.
hosts.
Exactly. I was just like, what? It sounds like an absolute nightmare. Yeah, I would not do that at all.
From my understanding and from my research, I agree that most of them are young, but young people. And here's the deal though. A lot of the influencers, a lot of the, side hustle guys got into this. And who is really the audience for that side hustle, side hustle mentality, especially when it comes to no money, no credit, type of mentality. It's going to be the younger folks, and the younger folks won't do the research on the other end of it, right? They're just going to go in head first, because if you really think about it, if someone tells you can get into something with no money, like no credit, no experience, right? You're going to get into it, and then you don't really care about the other side. It seems like all upside. The con of it is, why does the con really matter when there's so much upside and I'm not risking anything? At least that's how they look at it in the forefront. They're not looking at it in the long-term run and thinking like, oh, I can go into bankruptcy. I could have ruined my credit.
This video was powered by ExpressVPN, helping you get around the censorship laws in Canada. Go to expressvpn.com/market mania if you're interested in a VPN.
Oh, I can go into bankruptcy. I could have ruined my credit. I can do this, I can do that in the long term. And the bad side about this is that what I feel like what's really unfortunate is a lot of this is going to sour a lot of the younger people's minds on like real estate. They're going to think to themselves like, this is how real estate is, this is how real estate investing is, and I will never get into this because I lost my head in this Airbnb situation. When the Airbnb situation is not really, that's not really real estate investing. You're basically in the hotel hospitality business.
Yeah, you're 100% right, and that's what I say too. It's not real estate investing. It is hospitality, hotel industry. It's just branded as real estate investing, but really that's just false. It's not that at all.
It is.
But some of the price declines of these Airbnbs has just been absolutely insane. Even the property I'm staying at right now in Cabo, like we've stayed in a building that is literally just across the street from here, and we paid double a year ago for a week in the high season, and now it's half that. It's like $60, $70 a night, but you go on the Airbnb platform and you look at what's available and what's around, and you see like the prices are just so out of whack where you've got multiple hosts in these condo buildings. So you see it in big cities like across Canada and the US, where essentially there's like 10 units in one condo building, but they're all very similar. Everybody's going to go to the lowest price one, but you've got like one guy who's double and he's not getting any bookings, and I'm just like, what is the logic?
And then you have another guy who's selling you $1,000 more, $2,000 more, and the only difference is he's got a backsplash in the kitchen. It's like
yeah, exactly. Oh god, that's funny. Yeah, that's so right. Yeah, the Airbnb thing, I mean, that's just a bubble on its own, and I think it's one of those things that, I mean, it's got a little more attention now because a lot of YouTubers have caught on and everything like that. But, if you go back to 2021, nobody really saw this coming. I mean, I saw it coming because a lot of the people were buying these properties. I was just like, this just ain't going to work. Like 20 people buying properties in the same subdivision. Everybody was vacationing around local to home. And now everybody's going abroad. They're going to other countries, so they don't need it.
Yeah, I've saw the same thing kind of happening. Obviously, I'm in finance, right? So mortgage financing. So as a lender, I see you see a lot of things that really trends that are coming before it really hits the mainstream. And so this was a big thing that I used to see as individuals coming to me saying, "Hey, Orlando, I have this property. Can I get financing on it?" And crazy as this sounds, people were coming to me saying, "I don't own the property, but can I get financing because I make X amount of money doing that arbitrage?" And it just wasn't one person. I was getting hundreds and hundreds of people every month coming to me asking me this. And you start to see that the amount of money that they're saying that they're making, while it's true that they were making X amount of dollars, the problem is that when you have, just like anything else, man, just like anything else, when you have a low barrier of entry to any industry, it's only a matter of time before that industry gets overran from people who want to make quick money and the bottom falling out on it. We're seeing this right now with realtors, right? Realtors, I mean, anyone could be a realtor. I mean, you could be delivering pizzas tomorrow, be a realtor the next day. Like it's that simple. Same thing from an Airbnb at that time, right? You could take over, you could be one day working at a big retail store, the next day with no experience, jump into Airbnb. So what do you think is going to happen to an individual who has no experience, has not put anything into it, doesn't have any money to lose or anything into it, gonna implode? And that's what's happening currently right now. I mean, the writing was on the wall. It really was.
It really was. And saying you're in finance and you're in lending, so talk to us a little bit about the situation in commercial real estate, because I really think this is the canary in the coal mine. A lot of people aren't talking about this. And you've said to me and Travis before that commercial real estate is just basically a complete shit show.
Yeah. Commercial real estate at this exact moment, in this exact second, it's 100% bursting. It's definitely, the values are dropping. Individuals, this is what I say. When you see hedge funds, commercial banks losing their head on purchases, losing their head on the amount of money that they lent, it's ridiculous. I mean, we have seen apartment complexes. Now, remember, apartment complexes and multifamily is like, in commercial real estate, it's the #1 property type. If you have you're gonna be able to get the most leverage on multifamily than anyone. It's the #1 A-type property. Every bank loves to lend on multifamily. We are seeing multifamily apartment complexes get cut in half by 50% of what they were purchased for in 2022, 21. And we're not talking about crappy property. We're talking about grade A, top tier properties in great locations that are getting cut by 50%. Why is that? It's because rents are now going down, and individuals can now rent anywhere. A lot of people are deciding to roommate up, go live back with their parents. They're deciding to do that rather than rent now. So vacancies are up, and a lot of these guys overbought, right? A lot of these guys overbought at a ridiculous price point, and they believed that they would be able to rent at that high price point. Well, now we see that that's not the case, and so the income isn't even there to cover what the mortgage is. So we have multifamily, which is also getting hurt, but then we have office, we have retail, which is just getting destroyed. I mean, in some avenues, office buildings are being priced at 80% lower than what they were purchased at.
Wow.
And once you get into areas like San Francisco, Austin, some of these other bigger cities, it's just, what do you want? If you want to purchase right now an office building, you can go onto any of these sites and purchase an office building at a discount. Guaranteed. You can go purchase it. But the question is, do you want to purchase this office building knowing that nobody wants to rent it from you?
Yeah.
That's the question. Because just because you buy it at a discount does not mean that you will be able to get someone in the building. And that's the problem that we're having. And that's the reason why you're seeing that even though some of these office buildings and retail centers are being sold at a discount, nobody still wants to buy them because you still can't rent them out. You still can't lease them out.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It almost seems like it's going to be a great investment opportunity at some point. I don't believe right now because of where the economy's going and everything like that. But definitely, if values are getting cut by 80%, I mean, at some point, it's got to work for cash flow, even if you've got the building like 20% occupancy rate. I don't know. But talk to us about the financing, because can't a lot of these people just walk away from the financing as well and just literally hand the keys back to the bank?
Yeah, so some of these, the bigger ones with the hedge funds, they're non-recourse loans. And so a non-recourse loan basically means there's no recourse for the bank to actually go after the individual. They're not guaranteed by an individual. So you can just hand the keys back to the bank and then walk away, and there's no consequence to your personal credit. They can't come after your assets. They can't come after any of those things. So that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that the banks are basically, I mean, a lot of the owners are handing the keys back to the bank and saying, hey, look, this isn't going to work, and we're just going to hand the keys back. And then it's on the onus of the bank to find a new owner, someone to sell the property to at a discount.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, because we've seen a lot of that happen in Canada as well. Brookfield, massive real estate investment firm. Yeah, they've walked away from a few buildings now, like like big buildings as well. And it's just like unbelievable the amount of money that you're talking about. I mean, it's not much to them, but to the bank, I mean, if they're having to take huge losses and the values have dropped 80%, that's kind of crazy. And you might know the answer to this, Orlando, but I was recently in a office building in Calgary, which is the city that I live in. And it was a big office building. It was like 35 floors, big office building, and it was managed by, I can't remember the name. It wasn't like one of these big property managers. But anyways, they just renovated the whole thing. And I was in that building a year ago, and I was like, why? Why on earth would you renovate the building when obviously you even knew, like last year, that the value's going down? I mean, occupancy rates have been terrible in the city I'm from for a long time. So yeah, I kind of wonder what your thoughts were on that, why that might have happened.
A lot of times these owners believe that it's the quality of the building that's not bringing people to lease out the units, right? So if I elevate the luxury or the way or the property type itself, if I take it from a C to an A or a C to a B, then that'll attract other people that would normally not look at this property to looking at this property, right? And unfortunately, that's just not the case. The case is it's not a case of your property doesn't look good. It's a case of, does this make sense as a company anymore? When we're doing, have a lot of remote workers, do we need this location anymore? And a lot of companies are saying no. A lot of companies are doing layoffs. We see Google and Facebook and all these other guys doing layoffs. If I'm doing major layoffs of 20,000 people, do I really need this building anymore? I don't. I don't need it anymore. So what's the point of keeping this building? And a lot of people would say, well, Orlando, isn't it better for them to keep people in the building? And I mean, if they're locked into a lease, and I would say, no, it's not, because there's other things that come along with leasing that building. You've got power, you've got all this other stuff that's associated with it. If I can just bring down all of my costs down to just the unit renting, but it doesn't have any electricity, I don't have to pay water, I don't have to pay internet, then that's better than having people there that don't need to be there and then paying all those additional expenses. So yeah, most of the time these guys are just trying to think creatively, how can I drive traffic to my office building? And that's probably what they did.
Thinking maybe it was some type of dodgy trying to pump the value of it or something.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. When you do upgrade the building, it does bring up the value, but the way commercial real estate goes is that only works if you can get someone in the unit, right? It's all based off of cash flow. It's not like residential. Residential goes by comps, right? So if the house next door sold for $300,000 and your house is similar to theirs, then it's probably going to sell around, the value is probably around $300,000. Well, commercial real estate doesn't work like that. Commercial real estate works by, you can have a building next to you that is bringing in X amount of money. If you can bring more money into your building, then your building is worth more. It's all based off of the cash flow. And so they're hoping that if they're able to rehab the property, they're able to charge a premium, which would increase the value, and then they're going to just try to sell it right immediately.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That building that I was in, by the way, was like 70% vacant. So I was just...
You're going to have a hard time, man.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I was thinking. They literally had so many units for lease. They didn't even list the units. There was just too many. Too many.
They end up handing the keys back? Do you know?
No, so they're still in there as far as I know right now. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens with that. But it's interesting anyways, because all of this sort of stuff, I don't really know about the commercial real estate side of things, but I definitely think like commercial real estate has been hit so bad. And if you're saying like people are taking 80% value reductions on properties, people are handing keys back, like big companies like Brookfield are handing keys back. That ain't good at all, because that's kind of similar to what happened in residential in 2008. In fact, it's worse.
I think the problem is that what most people don't really understand is the domino effect, right? So if you have a huge office building, basically no one's at, the vacancy is really high, 70%, then everything around that, Starbucks, your restaurants, all of those businesses go out of business. That's just what happens because they all depend on that office to provide business for them. No one really from the outside in the suburbs or whatnot is coming to a business district to have lunch, right? It's really the individuals in the business district that are having lunch there, you know, and having their meetings and all that other stuff. If that's gone, then all of those supporting businesses go away. That means the restaurants, the Starbucks, that means the coffee shops that provide the beans for the Starbucks in that business district, they all take a hit. They all take a hit. And once all of that goes downhill and that domino effect happens, it affects the economy worse than what most people believe. Most people believe that it's just commercial. It's all by itself and it's not going to affect me at all. But then when you get laid off of your job and you're just like, why am I getting laid off? They're like, well, we have other locations that have went out of business and we're losing income now. So now we can't afford to pay you.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, you've seen cities like San Francisco, which have gone through this like on a massive scale where it's just like a ghost town, like apocalypse hit on the streets. But anyway,
Zombies.
Nobody would want to work there anyway. But because all the tech workers have gone, it's literally like everywhere is shutting down. I mean, there's crime component to that as well. But Vancouver is sort of like a twin city almost with San Francisco. It's like another zombie land. I don't know why it's these West Coast cities. Well, listen, Orlando, thank you so much for coming on the channel and chatting. Is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap up here?
No, last thing is that it's super important. Anyone who's looking at commercial real estate, residential, anything when it comes to finance and investing, it's super important for you to stay up on this news and stay up on videos that kind of give you an insight, read in between the lines, because a lot of this stuff I understand that I'm in the business, but if you look at this stuff, you can see the trends and you can see a lot of this stuff has already happened, guys. It's not like it's just out of the blue, you know, stuff that's happening. So if you keep up and you read in between the lines, keep up on these type of videos, understand what's going on in your local market, you will be ahead of a lot of people.
Great words there. Thank you so much, Orlando, for joining. And you guys go to Orlando's channel, check him out. He is fantastic and his videos are really hilarious. If you've enjoyed this video, please support the channel either on Patreon or by going to expressvpn.com/marketmania and getting yourself a VPN to get around Bill C-11 and all the censorship laws in Canada. If you've enjoyed this video, you might like this video here. You might like this playlist that I picked out for you here. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one. Take care.